The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. Counsel for the civil parties, you may now continue. Counsel Tisrina, thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to now continue putting a few more questions to you, Mr. Civil Party. Before we broke, we talked about the situation when you had to relocate from your home to your uncle's house, rather to the Churoi location. I read your document concerning your civil party application, and I wish to seek some clarification. With Mr. President's leave, I would like a document as the civil party application form document D22/1352 to be allowed to be used here. The President, you may proceed. Counsel Tisrina. Thank you, Mr. President. I will refer to document ERN in Khmer 00526165. English ERN is 00866007. This document is available in Khmer and English only, unfortunately. I would read part of the document, the final paragraph. And I would like Mr. Kumwandi to read this carefully, and I also seek your clarification as well. On the 17th of April 1975, when the Khmer soldiers who were dressing in black clothes coming to my village and in Phnom Penh, they shot into the air to scare my family and other people to leave our home. Indeed, we were asked to move from our home to a rural area. At that time, my father received some information that my uncle Yon, who was my mother's brother, who was a colonel at that time, was shot at his home, inside his home. I wish to seek some clarification on this particular paragraph. You said you saw your uncle being shot by the Khmer Rouge. Did you see your uncle being shot, or you heard about this from your father? Response. It was not my father who saw this. At that time, my father was in his working place, a military base. I did not know where, but upon hearing the gunshot, I opened the door slightly to see what happened. And my father later received some information from my mother after he left his work to my uncle's house. He learned about this later, but I saw what happened to my uncle first. Question. I also need to seek some clarification, if you may help us. You stated that You said that the Khmer Rouge threatened you at gunpoint to leave your home village. Do you still recollect that it was on the 17th of April 1975 that you were threatened at gunpoint at your home village to leave your home, or was this happening at the house of your uncle? Response: I'm afraid I don't quite understand your question. Counsel: thank you. I did not make myself clear. I apologize. I seem to have a slight problem with the understanding of your message. You indicated that on the 17th of April 1975, when the Khmer Rouge soldiers dressed in black clothes came to our village and in Phnom Penh, they shot they fired into the air and threatened us and other villagers to leave our homes to a rural area. So, may I ask for some clarification? On the 17th of April 1975 was the date when the Khmer Rouge came to your village. Is that correct? Because it appears to us that the message was not clear. Were you at your uncle's home, or was you at your home village at that time? Response: well, it was on the 16th of April 1975, not 17. And I did not say exactly that the soldiers belonged to the Khmer Rouge, but they were wearing black clothes. And they shouted to us, they asked us why we were reluctant to leave our home. I did not pay attention to them, but my family members said that we could not move. We could only leave our home when there was no more fighting. And by midnight, I think at the time when the new day changed, it was midnight, perhaps the early hour of the 17th of April 1975, we left the home. And in the morning, we woke up to the sounds of some people shouting, saying out loud, and I joined them because I was excited to hear people was saying, were too excited on the street, and I joined them. I was very young at that time. I heard that the soldiers liberated Phnom Penh completely. I saw people waving white flags, and I didn't have white flags to wave. I made use of my shirt, the shirt as a student, a white shirt, hoisted into the air, waving as a sign of cheering the group. And later on, my father, who had run from his military base to Santomok area, was stopped by me, who asked him what kind of soldiers were wearing in black clothes. My father said that they were the special forces of the government. I didn't understand much about whether they were the government or not. I only understood that they were black clothed military group who bore a special name. I stopped asking him some more questions about this after he already talked to me about this special force. Counsel: thank you. You said you left your home midnight. Where were you living to at that time? Or living for, rather? Response: I was leaving my home in Troi Chongwa for Son Thomok, where my uncle lived. Counsel: thank you. Now I would like to have some questions concerning your trip. I asked a few questions already concerning this, but I have some follow-up questions. How long did it take for you to leave Phnom Penh entirely? Response: it took us about half morning to leave from Son Thomok to Troi Chongwa Bridge, which is now Cambodian-Japanese Friendship Bridge. And we had to walk. We wanted to walk faster, but there were a lot of people on the road. We were trying to make sure we can go as far as possible when time passed by. I didn't ask people a lot of questions. When I asked my parents where we were, they told us that we were at the ferry crossing, the west side of the ferry crossing. Question: you said that there were a lot of people. Did you know where were these people from? Were they mainly people in Phnom Penh, or were you joined by other group of people from other provinces? Response: at that time, I didn't pay great attention to where these people could have been from, but I believe that they were all from Phnom Penh. Again, I was a student. I was very young. I didn't pay much attention to this. Question: did you know where you were heading to? Or were you guided by family member or other group of people where you should go? Response: my family had no intention to leave Phnom Penh. We wanted to remain in the city because we thought that if we had to leave, then it would not be easy. However, we were convinced by the other groups of people who were walking out of the city, and they said that we were told that we would be leaving the city for 3 days only when the city was being cleaned of or empty of the enemies. I don't understand much about the term enemies. I learned a lot at school, but I did not learn about the definition of the terms enemies as they indicated. Question: you said that your family were walking to some direction, but were you guided by some group of people or soldiers where you should go? Response: I think at that time we were at one place on the road which is next to the Troi Chongwa Bridge. There were some soldiers, 4 soldiers in total on both sides of the road, and they would allow people to go past them, and we would listen to them. They pointed to the direction where they would want us to go, and when people did not notice where they should go, then the soldier warned them, were you blind? Didn't you see the direction of the cannon of the gun where it pointed to? Then it was the direction that we all should go. And I was saying something because I was not happy about this, but then I was told not to say anything, and we continue walking. Question: where did you first stop during the trip? Could you tell the chamber, please, how was life like during the course of your journey, in particular when the whole family had to move from home and was walking on the road to the direction you didn't know? Response: my parents told us that we had to do our best to go as far as possible from the capital city, because we would like to make sure we would not be influenced by the high price of food in Phnom Penh. The further we travel, the better. And we didn't bring along with us a lot of money, but we were convinced that we had some money, enough money to buy some rice, and we also believed that we could find some food along the road. For example, we could fish for some fish in the ponds and paddy fields. And when we went further, I asked my father where we got to already, and he told me that we were at the ferry crossing. And I asked him, was there any river then? Then my father said that it was the ferry crossing and there must be a river. So we spent some time at the ferry crossing. We did not have with us any mosquito nets or blanket, because we believed that 3 days we would be back home, so we would not bring much belonging with us. Then we reached a place where there was a big tree, big tall tree, and we stopped there and we picked some leaves, small branches of the trees to make the mattress, to use as the mattress, improvised mattress for us to spend overnight there. I didn't think I could sleep at all at that time, because at home we would sleep in the mosquito net. We would not be bitten by any mosquitoes or insects, but there we did not have enjoyed this luxury. And my mother told me to be patient, because it wouldn't be long we would be allowed to return home and enjoy our comfort life as before. This is what she kept telling me and my cousin, to calm down and be patient, and that we could fight on.
Question: what was the food like while you were living under the tree, and how long did you stay under the tree? Were you distributed with any food by the Khmer Rouge while you were there? Response: The Khmer Rouge soldiers did not give us anything. My mother went around borrowing a cooking pot from the villager so that we could boil water for our instant noodle. The instant noodle package was made of paper and there was a symbol of a lobster at the outside. But I did not know which factory produced that noodle. So my mother cooked me the instant noodle at the time. Question: how long did your family live at that ferry crossing? Response: my family did not live at that ferry crossing for long. At dawn, our family actually crossed to the east side of the river in the hope that we would be able to find a better place to stay another night. And actually we found a site of the villagers' house and we asked them to stay there for a night, and we were told that there was no need for us to ask for a permission because they were also evacuees. And we chit-chatted a little bit with those people, but I myself actually did not ask any question. I was listening to the elder people talking to one another. Of course, in my mind, I was hoping that after 3 days I would return to my school. And as my mother told me that I should be patient, that I would be allowed to return, so I could attend my school after 3 days. So we stayed another night at each side of the riverbank, and then another night. We waited another night. That was the third night. And we did not see any people traveling back into Phnom Penh. And I started to wonder as to what happened. And my mother went to ask people. Actually, I was not sure whether the person was a militiaman or a soldier, but that person was carrying a gun. But that person did not wear a beret. So it was difficult to identify whether he was a militiaman or a soldier. And then the person asked my mother where was my mother's native village, and she told him that, and then he said that my mother should return to her native village and that we should pack our belongings to go there. So my mother and father seemed to understand the situation a little bit more, and then we asked for the permission to return to the west side of the river, but we were not allowed. And we were asked to proceed further. So we went along and we reached a village by the name of Tuol. It could be in Bathi district in Kampong Cham province. We stayed there for a week or also, or it could be up to 2 weeks. And then the people there, they were known as the best people. They gave us some rice in exchange of the clothes that we had with us. So we kind of exchange the necessity things that we needed with the base people, including rice and the cooking pot. And my parents went to talk to the base people, and that we wanted to stay in that Tul village. So then my mother went along with some of the base people to somewhere, but I did not know where she went to. And a long while later, she returned and said that we were not allowed to stay in that village because we were the 17 April people, and that village had been liberated earlier, and they were referred to as the 18 April people. To me, I didn't understand the difference. I knew the number, of course, the 17 and the 18, but I did not understand the difference between the 17 April people and the 18 April people. But some of the base people were kind to us, so they assisted us by lending 2 buffaloes to tow our cart up to the national road. Then we were on our own. Then we were on our own, returning to the ferry crossing, and then we crossed the river. However, our movement was rather slow. And then we actually reached the vicinity of Udong in our hope to reach Phnom Penh, but we were stopped there near Prek Dam. So we headed toward the Udong market. We stayed there for a day or two because we were so exhausted. We traveled for 3 or 4 days, and our feet were so tired as we could barely walk. Question: along the road where you cross the river, then through Bathi and Prek Dam, did your family encounter difficulties in terms of food, shelter, or did anyone get sick? And was any assistance provided by the base people or the local people or those who organize the situation? Response: when we were on the east side, the situation was miserable. We lacked everything: food and even a cooking pot. We needed to borrow someone's cooking pot when we needed to cook rice. Because my mother thought that a sack of instant noodle would last us for 3 days when we should be allowed to return to Phnom Penh. So we tried to survive from day to day, as we hoped that the situation would not last long. The situation was difficult, and while I was eating, I spoke to my mom that it was a pity for us to eat in such a situation. There was no meat for us to eat, and my cousin got a fever, and there was no medicine for his treatment. And no care was given to us by the base people. So then we tried to manage the situation by ourselves. We soaked our scarf with water to reduce his fever. Questioned. While you were traveling from one place to the next, did you encounter any checkpoint? Response. No, I did not see any checkpoint. I only saw them on mobile. They were mobile, they were on foot, and sometimes they rode bicycles. I cannot recall clearly whether they were militiamen or they were soldiers when they were riding their bicycles. They were kind of patrolling the road. Questioned. While en route, did you happen to see any lunar soldiers? Response. I did not happen to see any lunar soldiers, but I did see the dead bodies of lunar soldiers along the road. Those dead bodies could be the casualty of the fighting because the bodies were already swollen and there were flies. Questioned. When you saw those dead bodies of lunar soldiers, can you recall where did you see those bodies? Was it somewhere between Phnom Penh and Prek Kadam? Response. From what I could estimate, it was a little bit further than Prek Kadam. I saw 3 dead bodies of the soldiers on the side of the road. The bodies were already swollen. Questions. Besides seeing those dead soldiers, did you see any dead civilians? Or any civilians wounded along the road? Response. I saw one person under a tree. The person was abandoned there. However, it was a far distance from where I was, and I could not say whether that person was dead or alive. There was a bandage on the chest and on the other side of the shoulder. Let me go back a little bit. While you stayed at the ferry crossing, did you see any dead bodies floating on the river? Response. No, I did not. Because I did not actually go near the riverbank. Question. You stated that your family was hoping to return to Phnom Penh. Was there any announcement made for people to return to Phnom Penh after 3 days? Response. No. There was only an announcement for people to go out or to go to respective native villages. There was no such an announcement for people to return to Phnom Penh. I did not hear such an announcement. What I could hear was when they made an announcement on the loudspeakers for us to go out. Questioned. Earlier, you stated that your family was not allowed to stay in that village, and then you were instructed to go to your native village in Cambodia. How many days did it take you to reach Cambodia? Response. I did not know how long it took us to go. We kept walking and walking. When it was nightfall, we stopped and rested. Or when we could no longer walk, we rested in that location for a day or two, and after we gained some strength, we continued. But I could not tell you how long it took us to go there. The journey was quite a long time to my knowledge. And actually, I complained to my parents why it took us so long to reach their native village. And my parents asked us to be patient and that we would be in a better position when we reach their native village. They kind of encouraged us to go along and be patient. There was no transportation, we was on foot all the time, and there was no assistance offered by the Khmer Rouge soldiers or the base people. Question. When your family reached the native village, was your family greeted warmly as your family expected? Response. Could you please repeat your question? It was unclear to me. Question. Your mother told me that you should be patient and that the situation would be better once you arrived at the native village. So the question is, when your family reached the native village, was anyone there ready and waiting to greet you as you expected? Or were there any relatives who were there waiting to receive you? Response. When I arrived at the native village, it was not really our destination. Actually, the native village was at Angkor Chai. But we were sent to Pa Lay Lai district, not Angkor Chai district. However, I did not know the distance between these two districts. So we were asked to settle in Pa Lay Lai district. And the base people there, or the 18 April people there, were not friendly to us at all. We had a little bit of our belonging with us and we wanted to exchange it for food with them, but they refused. My family, like any other families, were asked to live in that Pa Lay Lai district. And we were instructed to live in a group and not to mix with the 18 April people. At that time, the chief of the village, his name was No, I still can recall it today. He was in charge of the 17 April people group. And all the 17 April people group were asked to work to the rice field without giving us any tools or any cows. They asked us to clear the land, but there were no big trees on the land. There were bushes here and there, and I myself had to clear a 10 square meter in exchange for a can of rice. But my family could not finish it, because in my family, just to mention my father and my mother, they had to clear 20 square meters of land already. Then the chief of the village by the name of Nerve tried a new idea. So then they asked us to work in a group of family, and for my family, we had to clear 12 square meters of land in exchange for a can of rice. I felt so pity for my parents. They tried their best to reach the quota, and the rest of other families were in the same situation. And the rice that we were given was inadequate. So we had to supplement it with fruit and other edible trees. We also ate the water lily, but in fact I mistaken it for water lily. It was known locally as a scone. So we actually ate that as well. Thank you. Question. You talked about the best people and the new people. What was the food ration for the best people? Were they in the same situation? Response. The best people did not work with us. They worked within their group. And their rice ration was sufficient for each of them who worked would receive a can of rice. So those 18 April people had sufficient food and they dressed in black. Questioned. Did your family, as a new people, had to go through any new registration? Response. I knew at the time there was no registration from any level. However, only the village chief knew who came to register our family members, and he also did the same through other families. Question. Did you know why they made a registration of family members of yours? Response. From I From what I can recall, I did not know for sure the purpose of such registration. However, as I was curious and I asked my parents, and I was told probably they wanted to know the actual numbers of the people so that it's easier for them to manage. Question: during the time that you lived there, did anything happen to your family? Response: yes. Onka, that was the first time I heard of the word and I didn't know who Onka was. We were told that Onka already made such an arrangement that we should not have any personal belonging or property, and we were instructed to abandon all our personal belongings for communal use, and that we would eat communally as well. But even so, the 17 April people would eat in its own group communally, and the 18 April people would do so within their group, although we ate under the same kitchen hall. So we ate communally among our group, and then we were put in various units, in mobile units. Later, my father was arrested. He had his hands tied behind his back, and I witnessed that event with my own eyes. At that time, I was looking after the cows, and I watched what happened. I had an axe in my hand, and I was holding to the cows on the other hand, but I could not do anything. At that time, my father said to me, "Please look after yourself, son." He also said that he would go to the upper level. I was speechless. My tear dropped. The Khmer soldier hit my father's head and he bled. They even laughed that now you are bleeding, and in the old regime you would have a bandage to patch it, but now you can patch it with sand. My tear flew when I saw that. Question: did you know the reason for the arrest of your father? Response: I could remember that there was a meeting one day, and I believe that was after the dinner. They made an announcement that tomorrow they would conduct the search in all those houses. I did not pay much attention, and then I went to tender the cows nearby in the nearby field. So they started searching the houses of the 17 April people first. I didn't know the reason for that. And then they found a photo of my father. In the photo, he was dressed in a Navy uniform near a ship, actually on a ship. At that time, he was sent on a mission to Dam Dam village in Kokong province when the photo was taken. And actually, prior to that, the village chief asked me what my father did in Phnom Penh. He said that I should tell him the truth, then he would give me rice and pork to eat. Then he actually put some rice on a scarf and some pork there, but I lied. I said that my father was a rickshaw driver. Whatever he asked or urged, I maintained the same response. So then he stopped asking and he gave me the rice, so I ran back home with the rice to give it to my family to cook. But when they did the search, they found the photo. Then my father was arrested. Then at that time, some of them actually made a joke out of me. They said that I was the son of a traitor and that I lied. They said that the regime was a clean regime, a clean and pure regime, and that the regime would not accept any capitalist. They spoke a lot about that, but I cannot recall it all. And at night, because they accused me of being a son of the traitor, they shackled my feet and they actually beat me. And after 1 week, they took the shackle away. President, thank you. The hearing today has come to a conclusion. The court will now adjourn and will resume tomorrow morning, that is Thursday, the 6th of December 2012, starting from 9 a.m. Tomorrow we will continue to hear the testimony of Kung Wandi and another witness, that is TCW 247. Mr. Kim Wandi, your testimony has not yet concluded and you are invited to return tomorrow morning. Court officer, in collaboration with Visu, could you assist this civil party to return to his residence and have him return to the courtroom tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Security guards, you are instructed to take the three accused back through the detention facility and have them return to the courtroom tomorrow morning before 9 a.m. And as for Mr. Yangsari, bring him to the holding cell downstairs so that he could follow the proceedings through audio-visual means. The hearing is now adjourned.